Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Living Today. This is your host, CEO and founder of Irons Group LLC. And this is where we inspire and empower our female school leaders to discover their purpose, leverage their strengths, sharpen their skills through perseverance, passion, and teamwork. And this is our Friday night highlights show. This is where we get to highlight a servant leader in our community. And I am so excited to be here with you guys this week once again. And this week we're highlighting Olivia Owens. Thank you so much for everyone for joining me. If this is your first time in the Iron Sharpening community, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your second or third time, thank you for coming back. And if you're catching this on the replay, hey, just go ahead and share with your friends and your family. We do this show every single Friday night. Why? Because we believe that servant leadership is the highest quality of a leader. And I wanted to just let you guys know that this month we are highlighting people in the financial community, people who are kicking butt and taking names in the financial community. I believe that it's very important for us to talk about money. How to get it, how to have access to it. I also believe that we need to get our financial houses in order. Last week, we talked to Marianne Antoinette, and she was someone who is a financial coach. She talked to us about getting our credit repaired. She talked to us about wills and trusts. She talked to us about making sure that you shouldn't feel ashamed if you're having financial difficulty, if you've made some mistakes in your credit. She talked to us about reaching out to her and getting your credit in order because you have the ability to do that. So today, though, we're talking to Olivia Owens, and Olivia works with female entrepreneurs. So Olivia, I just want to welcome you to the show. Just say hello to everybody and tell them, just say something nice to the people out there. How are you today, Olivia?
Hi, I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me. Really, really excited to have this conversation and share a little bit about the work that I do, particularly when it comes to accessing capital for small business owners, and how we are really focused on alternative funding options to help push businesses forward.
Fantastic. So, guys, listen, if you are not here, if you're late to the party, and wherever you are, I hope that you are joining us, wherever you're joining us from. Make sure you're sharing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Olivia, and then we're going to get started asking questions. So Olivia Owens is the creator and general manager of IFundWomen of Color. This is a platform for women of color to raise capital through crowdfunding, grants, coaching, and the connections needed to launch and grow successful businesses. This funding ecosystem is designed to empower early-stage women entrepreneurs and bridge the funding gap for women of color. Olivia was a founding team member of IFundWomen and managed business development and partnerships. IFundWomen was launched in 2016 and continues to help women raise millions of dollars in capital. Before launching IFundWomen of Color, Olivia's leadership brokered critical partnerships to help scale the business. Those partnerships were with companies like Unilever, Visa, and Adidas. She supported the creation of IFundWomen's proprietary coaching program and helped to build out the nation's largest connected communities of women business owners through the platform. Olivia previously held positions at Under Armour in people and culture. She is a graduate of the University of Maryland with a bachelor's in journalism. So thank you, Olivia, for joining us. And I am so excited to have you here with us tonight. So let's just get started and just have this conversation. So the first thing I wanted to ask you, Olivia, is just to tell us a little bit about just some wins and learns from last year, COVID-19. We were talking a little bit before we came on here about where we were a year ago prior to this. You and I were at a conference together, I think in February of 2020, the Flourish Media Conference here in South Florida. So tell us a little bit about any, your wins and learns from last year, 2020, with COVID and all of that, with everything that's happening.
Yeah, I definitely a ton of different learnings in all of the different areas of life. But I think when it comes to the work that we do with women entrepreneurs, I think we already knew how resilient women entrepreneurs were, but this past year definitely put them to the test. And we launched IFundWomen of Color in January of last year, so the platform was already up and running ahead of the pandemic and ahead of the kind of disproportionate impact that Black-owned businesses faced last year. And so I think learnings are when you give people access to the capital that they need, they can persevere and continue to be successful. I watched so many of the women in our community push through this year and come out on top. And so I think that resiliency is definitely a major theme from last year.
Wow. So resilience. What about your own personal learns? Anything in your own personal career that you learned about yourself throughout this process last year to now?
Yeah, I think that we all have kind of a unique experience and lens to bring to the table. Working at a company that was helping small businesses navigate the pandemic while also navigating it ourselves, and being able to kind of be at the table and a part of those conversations and address how are we going to speak out about Black Lives Matter? How are we going to involve ourselves in a really important conversation and be able to have my voice heard and guide the company in a way that aligned with my larger beliefs, but also in alignment with what our core goals are at IFundWomen, which is increasing funding volume for women entrepreneurs, getting more money in their hands. And so we were able to do a few different grant programs for Black women-owned businesses last year. One with American Express, where they did $125,000 grants for Black women-owned businesses, and considering the average revenue for Black women-owned businesses is 24K. A $25,000 grant is life-changing money, and so being able to be a part of programs like that and really have an impact on the women is probably the biggest win for me.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, in terms of, funding for your businesses. I mean, the truth is that I think you some of the data that I saw on the site, you were saying I think 72% of female founders of businesses lack access to funding, which is a huge number, meaning that we start businesses at a really fast rate. And so, I mean, in terms of pivots that you yourself had to make and the company had to make, what were some of those that you guys had to make really quickly? Because everyone had to make some sort of quick turnaround because of COVID. What are some of the things that you guys had to do pretty fast?
Yeah, so we were sitting in a fortunate position where a lot of the work that we did with our entrepreneurs was already happening virtually, but something that we were able to do was to just make the information more accessible. So, crowdfunding was a tool that many entrepreneurs turned to this year so that they could keep their businesses going. And so, what we wanted to do was make the access to the tools, resources, education more accessible. So, we opened up our workshops membership, which has hours and hours of downloadable tools and resources and workshops, and made it free for entrepreneurs to be able to get access to the information that they needed. We held crowdfunding sprints. So pretty much every single day there was a workshop being run by one of our coaches where you could go in and get your questions answered. I think that this past year exacerbated the loneliness of entrepreneurship because you were at least able to kind of balance it out by being able to go to events and network. And this past year forced you to kind of sit in the house and try to figure it out yourself. So as accessible as we could make ourselves to entrepreneurs to help move them through it, was the fastest and most valuable pivot that we made.
Wow. So, Olivia, I mean, you have a broadcast journalism degree, right? And I'm curious, how did you get into this environment with working with female entrepreneurs and even wanting to do this work? How did you get involved in this idea?
Sure. So I think that there's always so much pressure put on the degree that you get when you're going through school. And my dad came from a broadcast journalism background, and my mom had a radio show for 20 years. And so journalism was definitely running through my veins, but I had dreams of working for a magazine in New York. And as I was going through school, the death of print was happening. And so I quickly recognized, okay, I'm going to need to find a new dream. And all during school, I worked at the IT help desk. And so I have this random amount of IT experience and customer service experience. And when I was looking for jobs, I had a friend who knew somebody that had just started a temp agency. And so I connected with her and she said, okay, I have a sales job or an HR job. And I was like, I don't think I want to do sales. Let's try HR. And she was like, well, the company's Under Armour. And I was like, you could have led with that. That's a pretty awesome place, right, to have an opportunity. And so they had actually already gone through the interview process and identified who they wanted to hire for the role, but said, if you can come in before Friday for an interview, we'll still interview you. And the hiring manager was really attracted to my customer service experience. She said, I can teach you anything you need to know about benefits, which was a team that I would have been joining. But we really need somebody who's going to be able to take a hands-on approach with our teammates. And so I came on as a temp benefits coordinator and then worked on that team for 3 years, but ultimately determined that HR wasn't where my passion was. And so I needed to find a space where I could marry my underlying mission of wanting to help people become a better version of themselves with an opportunity that I could get excited about. And so I ended up quitting my job, moving to New York. My brother lived in New York, so I was able to move in with him and kind of figure out what the next step was going to be. And at the same time, my mom has been an entrepreneur for the majority of my life, and she was crowdfunding for her business. And when I moved to New York, she said, you have to meet Karen Kahn, the founder of IFundWomen. She's amazing. And so I met Karen, and at the time, IFundWomen was in its first year, and they were looking for somebody to do social media for them. And I was like, okay, well, that's money that I could start making. And in line with, I thought I wanted to get into marketing at that point. And so I started doing freelance social media for them. And Karen was connecting me to people in her network for a full-time opportunity. And after a few months, they came back and said, what position do we need to create to keep you on the team? And so I came on as the marketing manager. And quickly realized that social media was not my thing. But I also recognized that I really liked the events and partnership side of it. And so I was able to make the transition to business development. I was the first hire outside of the co-founding team. So I was able to kind of sit in every department and really get a full sense of the business in its entirety. And then last year, the opportunity to launch IFundWomen of Color opened up, and so that's where I am now.
That is, so you know what I love about that? It's because sometimes, being a former educator, right, we think that, and if you're just joining us, we're interviewing Olivia Owens, and she is the creator and general manager for IFundWomen of Color. And the reason I am so excited about how you kind of just told us about your journey, you had this broadcast journalism degree, which, by the way, that was my dream as well. I had that degree, graduated with that, ended up in education. But I love the way you kind of talked about that journey. You kind of tried some things. It was you. Let me just say this. She was still working. She had a job. You were doing different things, and you're realizing, okay, these are not the things. This is not my passion. This is not what I'm passionate about. And here you are. You finally found the thing that you're really good at, and you wanted to help people, be transformed and be their best selves. And I have to say, not that I'm biased or anything, you're really good at it. I've seen you. You are. I've seen you coach people live in person last year when I watched you do it, when people were pitching their ideas in front of you. And you were part of that team watching women pitch their ideas to get money into their business. And you're a good coach. We've talked on the phone. We've had conversation about my business. So I know that you're good at that. And so you're actually living out your, this idea of helping people to get funding for their businesses, which is not a, easy thing to do, to get people to invest into your idea, because we all have ideas. I mean, everybody has an idea that they think
Yeah.
could make money and they think could be a business, but it's you know, it's an idea, but then it's on paper, it's in your head. That's one thing, but is it going to sell? Is it marketable?
A completely different thing. And the other thing that I always like to say about my story in terms of, I think it's so easy to get caught up in like, well, I wish I'd known about this sooner. Or I wish I had just gotten here faster, and I wish I hadn't have gone through that stuff. IFundWomen didn't exist when I graduated, so this opportunity wasn't even possible. That journey had to have happened for me to get here. And so I think one of the big things is you're never too late for the opportunity that's for you, because the timing has to be in alignment for it to be right. So I think that's another important piece too.
That's very good. So that opportunity didn't exist, and the time it was. I mean, hello. And sometimes that's the thing. We think that we're just going to wake up and voila, it's there. And you don't understand that you have to go on this journey. And I'm really glad that you actually said that, because sometimes, you know, there's a young person out there who believes that maybe this is not the right thing, or there's a parent pushing a kid to do something that they may not want to do. They're not passionate about it. You have to kind of allow them to just walk that journey out, you know, to live it out. Being a mom of a 24-year-old, I'm speaking to myself too, by the way. You know, so sometimes we have to do that. So let's talk a little bit about just IFundWomen of Color, because there are going to be people watching this, whether they're catching it on the replay, however they decide to catch it. And I know IFundWomen itself is about capital, coaching, and connections. And you guys really focus a lot at IFundWomen on helping people with startups. But tell me, what was the premise behind starting IFundWomen of Color?
Yeah, so when you look at the statistics, 1,800 businesses are started by women in this country every single day, and women of color represent 89% of those businesses. But when you look at the capital, particularly venture capital statistics, women receive less than 3% of VC dollars. There's a complete disconnect between the new businesses that are being started and who's actually getting the money. And so understanding that landscape, and then looking at our platform and seeing there are women of color in our community, but they're not being reflected in the amount of funds being raised on our platform. And so that means that there is a deeper hesitation. There's some type of barrier that's preventing women of color from raising the capital that they need through crowdfunding. And when you dig deeper into what are the things that might be standing in their way, the first one is crowdfunding is when you raise small increments of money from lots of people that you know, that adds up to just enough money to achieve a specific goal. And so if you don't feel like you have people in your network who you can turn to and ask for support, crowdfunding doesn't feel like an accessible tool for you. And then on the other side, there are cultural nuances around asking for money and asking for help. And so if that's not a muscle that you've built up, or a skill set that you've really honed, it's something that can feel really unnatural to do. And so in launching IFundWomen of Color, it's how can we bridge that gap between creating the business and leveraging crowdfunding by creating the opportunity for them to grow their network between the other women of color who are going through this shared experience. And then on the flip side, and probably most important to me, is teaching women of color how to leverage each other. I think so often we will go outside of our community and come back to show we have it all together instead of just asking for help. In our community, we have finance experts, graphic designers, app developers, legal experts. And if we're all using each other to fill in the gaps of our knowledge and expertise, we all move further faster. And so I think the beauty of what I've seen in a year of running this community is watching them get more and more comfortable with asking for the help that they need, being vulnerable, speaking up about what they don't know so that they can get the help they actually need, instead of just trying to use brute force to push their businesses forward, because that's not how you scale. That's not how you move the needle on that average revenue of 24K number.
Wow. So pretty much so in terms of that, you guys coach people with doing that. So what would it look like if you are you're a startup business, female entrepreneur, You have an idea. I don't know. I want to launch a app. I'm just throwing something out there.
Yeah.
And you need money to do that. What would that look like with IFundWomen of Color? Like, what would you need to do?
Yeah, so the most important thing for us, and you kind of touched on this earlier, is there's a complete difference between an idea and a business. And the reason we love crowdfunding is because it allows you to prove demand for your product or service before you invest in supply. I think the mistake that entrepreneurs often make is they come up with the idea, they start to Googling to see if the domain name is available. They spend all of their money perfecting the website, perfecting the product, and then put it out there, and they have nobody who's interested in buying it. Whereas instead with crowdfunding, you're able to say, hey, I have this idea for an app. This is what I want it to do. You go to their community and say, here are the different products, services, content, experiences that I can sell you in exchange for you helping me fund this app idea that I have. If nobody's interested in funding your crowdfunding campaign, maybe you need to rethink the way you're positioning this product, or maybe you're trying to solve a problem that nobody's interested in paying to solve. And so saving you years and years of your life and thousands of dollars is what we're here to do at IFundWomen. And we do that through what we call the IFundWomen method, which are the 4 steps that we take entrepreneurs through in advance of launching their crowdfunding campaigns. And what we love about the prep work for crowdfunding is it directly parallels to the work that you need to be doing for your business anyway. It's a force function to help make sure that you're laying a strong foundation. And so that first step is honing your pitch, getting clear on your messaging around the problem that you're solving and how your product or service solves that problem. The second step is mapping your network. There are going to be people in your network likely who fall within your target audience. Some of them might not, but what are the different ways that you could leverage them for your business? Do they have video production skills? Do they have experts in their network who could help serve your community? Really getting a clear understanding of your network, your reward strategy. What are the different skill sets and superpowers that you can leverage to help you get the capital that you need? What are the things that the people in your network are already asking you for, and how can you monetize those? And then the last step is your marketing strategy. It can take 6 to 7 touches to get somebody to convert. So figuring out how you're going to get people engaged and actually get them to invest in the campaign.
Wow. And I mean, that's all done within based on what I know about IFundWomen, within a safe space with other women. And I think that's awesome. And if you're just joining us, thank you guys so much. This is Olivia Owens, and she's tonight's servant leader highlight honoree. And Olivia is the creator and general manager of IFundWomen of Color, and she helps women entrepreneurs that are in their startup part of their business get capital, and she coaches you and teaches you along with her team on how to do that. And I love that that idea of having an environment where you can leverage each other, to find support. That way you're not by yourself. And like you said, being an entrepreneur is a lonely thing, right? So it's a great way for you to have other people around you helping you to do that. So I love that. So you kind of mentioned about why you got into this path, why you do the work that you do. And I know that one of the things I love to ask my guests to share with people is our listeners is an iron sharpening thought, because this is the iron sharpening community. And I know you all at IFundWomen of Color have something called Pay It Forward. We'll get to that in a second. But tell me, if you had to give the women out there that are, starting business owners, if you're already in business or kind of through the business, and you're probably, some people kind of they want to give up. They don't have the capital. They don't know what to do. What would be like an iron sharpening thought that you would want to leave with them? Something positive tonight that you would want to say to those women?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge of entrepreneurship is overcoming your own inner narrative, and that assumption that, well, why would they help me, or I probably wouldn't get it, or they probably won't buy it. And one of the things we always say is, if you don't ask, you don't get. We are the protagonists of our own stories, and so just because you told somebody about something one time, it doesn't mean they're thinking about it. They're thinking about themselves. And so never underestimating the power of just making it known what you need. Some people are going to say no, that's a guaranteed. So you can kind of check that off. I know I'm going to get some no's, and then just go out and seek the yeses. That becomes the exciting point. It's where are the yeses that I can find, and digging for those. And the more and more you get comfortable with digging, the more and more you get comfortable with putting yourself out there. Those are the people who win in entrepreneurship, the people who are shameless about what they need and asking for it instead of trying to do it by themselves. Anybody's story who they're on the Forbes list, they're on any list, it was because of the list of people that helped them get there, not because they just put their head down to get there.
Yeah, I love what you said about they were shameless and they asked. And that's the thing. You have to ask and just keep it moving and asking questions. Otherwise you won't know. So I want to know about you have a pay it forward day at IFundWomen of Color. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is that all about?
Yeah, so that's actually something that we do as a platform. So every single month, we reinvest 20% of our standard fees on crowdfunding campaigns back into live campaigns on our platform. And so that's something that we've done from the very beginning, but we firmly believe in creating a virtuous cycle of funding for women entrepreneurs. And so once you get forward, once you raise funds, you can feel confident knowing that a portion of what you raised are going back into other entrepreneurs on our platform.
I love that. And see, that's right up my alley. We have a comment here that says, find the yes. I love it. Find the yeses. And that's the truth. You know, I love that you guys do that because each of those women know that when they get money, it goes back into and helping other businesses. And that's the true value of being a servant and a leader. It's really helpful because we're within that IFundWomen group. They know that they're, you know, it's you know, you're paying it forward. Each of you are helping the next person. It creates that safety net for each of the women that are in there. So you're not by yourself as you're building and creating and putting your idea out there. You know, you have the support that you need within the organization. So Olivia, I just have a quick question for you about, so what are some things that you like to do to unwind, you know, when you're not working and helping female entrepreneurs? What are some things that Olivia likes to do?
Yeah, I will say in this past year, this is something I've gotten a lot better at. I fell back in love with biking through the pandemic. It was a way to be outside, get some exercise, but also just an activity that I loved growing up, and kind of finding those opportunities to find the kid in you again and just have some fun. So I enjoy that. I love reading. I have a Kindle that I spend a lot of time digging through books, whether they're personal development. I read a lot of personal development, self-help, business books, of course, but also love a good fiction book that you can get lost in. And just catching up with friends. I have a pretty wide spanning network of people that I've kind of stayed in touch with throughout the years. So just finding the opportunity to touch base with them and pour into each other, because we can't be connected physically, but we can still connect virtually. So those are some of the things that I've been doing.
That's really awesome that you find time still to, you know, to take care of you and, you know, finding time to connect. Yeah. I mean, finding time to connect with each other and other people. And I think it's really funny. I mean, Olivia and I, we connected. I connected to her through her mom at a conference, at one of her mom's classes, you know, that her mom taught. And then now she's in New York, the city I used to live in. And then we met in Maryland, and then we were at this conference last year here. And it's amazing how, you know, you just have to stay connected and make, especially with all the things that are going on right now in our world, right? So one of the things I wanted to make sure I asked you tonight, Olivia, is like, how can people connect with you? Female entrepreneurs, if you're in a situation where you need funding, let me look into the camera. Everybody needs funding. I mean, you're trying to build a business. If you're out there and you're an entrepreneur and you need funding and you're thinking, how do I get money? Olivia's here. So how can someone connect with IFundWomen of Color, and what would they need to do to connect with you?
Yeah, so there are a few different ways to connect with iFundWomen. I would say the easiest way to stay in touch with what we're doing is to follow us on Instagram, which is just at iFundWomen. And if you head to the link in our bio, you'll see all the different resources that we have in there, from a free weekly webinar that we do on Thursdays about crowdfunding 101, or our playbook, which includes that method that I kind of talked to you through. You can follow me at Olivia L. Owens. And then for IFundWomen of Color, there's an application which you can apply to at ifundwomen.com/WOC.
I'm typing it /WOC. Let's see. Yeah. Right. So that's how you can, reach Olivia. And the website is the IFundWomen website is pretty self-explanatory. So in terms of services that someone would get, I know you have the coaching up there. What are some of the things that they would be able to have access to when they got on there, the website?
Yeah. So we offer workshops and classes. We offer free workshops and classes if you attend live. If you go to ifundwomen.com/workshops, you can see all the different workshops we offer, from social media strategy to funding, to sales strategy, to pitching, making the ask, grants, nonprofits, all of those things. We also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you want to work with our coaching staff, you can book topic-specific calls with experts on an on-demand platform. And there's a monthly or an annual plan for that. And then another free resource that we have is our Slack channel, which is where our community lives. And that's kind of how you can stay in the know and connect with the other women in our community who are going through this experience.
Okay. And I know, Olivia, that you said that I think you guys were looking for your hiring, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know if the post is up right now, but we will be hiring for a community associate, which for IFundWomen of Color, which would be a split role between a business coach and somebody supporting the community hands-on. So if it's not up on our careers page right now, you can look out for it within the next month or two.
Cool. So in case you're out there listening and you're watching the replay and you're interested in something like this, there will be a job opening at some point for IFundWomen of Color. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to participate in working with women entrepreneurs, this may be an opportunity for you. This is something that you're interested in doing. So Olivia, the reason we had you on the show in the first place is because I wanted to highlight you. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, we're talking to people in the financial community, people who are serving and leading in this space. And like I said last week, we all need to get our financial houses in order. Okay. We talk about money, and I'm a business owner. There are other business owners on here that would be listening to this, watching this. Right now, we have Ashaki Bronson Marcellus on the show. She is a banker. She knows what I'm talking about. We call her the money girl in our BNI chapter. She's always, and we know, okay, we need to know to take care of our money, and we need to make sure that we are, we need funding for our businesses. This is another resource for all of you out there. If you have a business and you have an idea and you need money, this is a place where you can go get that. And Olivia and the IFundWomen team, the people at this organization, they are doing it every single day, helping female entrepreneurs get money. But one of the things when I bring people on the show is that servant leaders are people that are self-aware, they're active listeners, they're compassionate, they're visionary, they're intuitive, they're healers, they're people who look at the whole person, they're community builders, stewards, and they're committed to the growth of others, and they're always very persuasive. Every servant leader that I have on here pretty much always embodies all of those characteristics. There's always one that pretty much stands out oftentimes for them. You, Olivia, you're very visionary, and you're also committed to the growth of others, because that's why you do what you do every day. You're committed, you're visionary. Otherwise, there would not be IFundWomen of Color. Okay, that came out of what your vision for, what it is, the work that you're doing. And now you're committed to the growth of others. You're committed to the growth of the women that you see in the community, the entrepreneurs. You see their ideas. I watched you last year when those women were pitching in front of all of us live, which I don't even know how those women did that. They had to pitch in front of live investors, guys. And, you know, these investors had a lot of money. It wasn't like $2 they were pitching for. They were pitching for a lot of money. And these women had to be prepared, and they had to stand there and share. And then they had to be able to say, this is what my idea is. This is what I'm looking at. And this is how much money I want. And not everybody walked away with that money. Okay. So the truth is, you know, Olivia, you are a visionary and you are committed to others' growth. And I wanted to bring you on here. And here in the Iron Sharpening community, I wanted to just take this time to say thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for giving of yourself and of your time to female entrepreneurs and to the women of color. We definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. We definitely honor you tonight. And we wanted to say thank you. Thank you for all the work you're doing. And thank you for just giving of yourself and of your time. It's appreciated and definitely valued. And thank you so much for doing that. So take your bow. This is your opportunity. And yay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel very, very privileged to be able to do the work that I do, and truly enjoy it. So I appreciate the acknowledgement and recognition. I think that's always so important and definitely shouldn't go overlooked.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you so much for saying yes to us. So just for any final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience before you go.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say is perfect is the enemy of done. I think that if you have an idea that you've been thinking about and you kind of want to put it out there, the sooner you get it out there, the better, because your first vision is probably not going to be the one that gets you the success you're looking for. So start that process as early as possible. And I honestly think mediocrity is an underrated thing. There are many mediocre things out there that are really successful. So you don't need to be perfect to do it. You just need to be out there. That's the difference between the people who are doing it and who are not, is they got started. So go for it.
Wow. Second week in a row. So you said perfect is the enemy of done. And second week in a row, I'm hearing another guest of mine say that they need to get started. Last week, guest said the same thing, to start. So you're saying that to people out there to get started, right? So, I mean, I don't know how many other ways to tell everyone, get started, you know, do the work that needs to be done. Get started, just do it, get the work done. So Olivia, thank you again so much for being here. We just want to let you know that we honor you. We see you. Thank you so much for the work you're doing at IFundWomen and for starting the IFundWomen of Color, you know, part of that, you know, the IFundWomen group. I've heard of IFundWomen. I've seen the work that you guys have been doing, and I'm glad that you're over there at IFundWomen. And I want to give a shout out to everyone else on the team that you work with every day, doing all the work for the ladies, female entrepreneurs. We totally appreciate it, and we see you guys. So thank you so much for being here. And guys, I just want to say thank you to all of you that are joining us. If you're catching this on a replay, make sure that you reach out to Olivia. Like she said, perfect is the enemy of done. No idea is an idea. You never know. They're experts over at IFundWomen. So the best thing for you to do is to reach out, ask them questions, get some feedback, and allow the experts to speak to you and speak into your life, speak into your dream. So as I love to say here, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Join us again next Friday, same time, same place for our next guest and honoree. It'll be someone in the financial space, again, speaking to you about your money. And listen, there's no better time like the present to get your financial house in order. Trust me when I tell you, so many things are happening. So many, we're losing family, friends, all kinds of things are happening in our world. So listen, don't take any moment for granted. Hug your loved ones. You know, just make sure that you recognize how precious life is. So have a great weekend, everybody. See you guys again next Friday. Peace and blessings. May God be with all of you tonight and moving forward. Have a great weekend. Good night.